point was made about the manner of the proceedings and it being a Part 8 claim. One point that I wanted to emphasise, it is in the skeleton arguments, but you were taken to Section 8 of the 83 Act, and on its face, Section 8 says that if my clients serve a notice, then within 28 days they're entitled to remove the vessel from the waterway. What my clients do as a standard course is, rather than simply invoking Section 8 and removing the vessel from the waterway, they seek the court's sanction. And the purpose for seeking the court's sanction is the human rights position of a boater. So it enables, and this isn't a point in contention, but in a number of the authorities you have before you, and of course in Pinnock and Powell in particular, it is now well established that the court or a person is entitled to an independent adjudication of the question of proportionality. And that, in my client's instance, would be through the court. And it is for that reason that my clients seek the court's sanction. And you've also seen, I won't trouble you at this moment in time to go back to the claim form, but you've seen the relief sought, which is firstly the declaration that my clients are entitled to exercise their statutory powers, and then injunctive relief, which is very much viewed on this side as consequential relief, and I'll come back to that when dealing with Porter.
Is the point that you quite often have to do this? You normally issue Part 8 proceedings, and they don't usually become contentious as this.
That is exactly where I was getting to. And there are many cases, and the point was made, well, that there hasn't been a transfer to Part 7, and I think it's correct that technically in this case, the case has not been transferred to Part 7. But in the bundle behind tab 8, at page 69, you will see...
Just before we move away from Section 8, Section 8 doesn't, in terms, say what the conditions are that need to be fulfilled before the 28 days notice is given. Do we read it as subject to the conditions in Section 17? Because you could get disputes other than Article 8 disputes about whether there has been a reasonable allowance of additional time in one place and so on.
The way it will work is Section 8, as my learned friend correctly identified this morning, the provision I rely upon is where it says that the vessel is there without lawful authority.
Right.
And the requirement in Section 8 for the notice is that the notice must specify the effect of Section 8. So by the time a notice is served, yes, any licence that there was would have been determined. So it will be a question of explaining with that notice that the licence has been determined, the boat is therefore there without lawful authority, and this is the effect of Section 8.
Well, the first point I'll make is that much of my learned friend's submissions have really been directed, I said, actually demonstrating why a structured proportionality approach should apply. Because we've heard a number of things this afternoon about matters that the Canal and River Trust would wish to be taken into account, potentially in relation to an individual case. Whether this is a case where honeypotting is concerned, as it's been described, is it such a tiny area of the canal the person is on, is that their failure to continuously navigate to the degree that the trust, say, is interfering with the trust management functions? Might it be that someone could go onto another waterway? But the point is that none of these can be taken as given.
None of them can be taken?
Can be taken as given.
Yes.
That's the difference, the fundamental difference between this and the housing cases.
Yes.
Is that it's clear from the very nature of housing stock and what is widely known about the issue, that those matters could be taken as given. So we've heard this afternoon a number of things that might well turn up in that amended reply if you were with me and find that it is a matter for a structural proportionality exercise, but that's where they should be, in a course of structural proportionality exercise, not in submissions this afternoon explaining some things that might give rise to good legitimate aims. We haven't heard those anywhere before. So that, I say, supports me in relation to the structured proportionality exercise. The second point I'd make is that in relation to the private property element of this case, and I wish not to stress into what I said this morning, but This is a licensing regime. What gives the right to remove someone from the canal is that their licence has come to an end, it's said because of a failure to comply, and then a statutory right arises to remove them from the canal. It has nothing to do with private property rights in the Canal River Trust at all, in relation to removing someone from the canal who has had a licence. There may well be differences in relation, say, for example, someone who turns up on a Canal and River Trust riverbank, a small part, and leaves their van there whilst they spend going up and time on the canal, because that's a completely different issue. It's a small piece of land that they are possessing. There will be a possession claim that will potentially arise. But in relation to the removal from the canal, they're not actually asserting a private right at all. They're asserting the statutory right. So that removing a boat from the canal, they're not asserting private property rights. They're asserting statutory licensing removal rights. That's very different.